it's never an isolated incident that leads into you either liking or disliking a movie. It's more of a case of does the movie in total, as a whole, connect with you.
All right.
Hey everybody, my name is Nick. I'm a director living in Taiwan, and today we've got Luke all the way from New York City, and we are also joined by Carrie and Heinrich from the Flick Lab podcast.
Hi.
Hi, nice to be here.
Yeah, good to have you guys.
You guys seem to be having really nice YouTube channel. It would be a shame if two Finns would happen to it.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
could you guys, Carrie, could you tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure thing. So, yeah, I'm from Finland, just like Henrik, but happen to live in Malaga at the moment. Working in IT, but I have some media background. I worked on some TV series, and yeah, we decided with my longtime pal Henrik that it would be a good idea if we would talk about movies.
Nice.
That was 3 years ago.
Yeah,
We have
Okay.
regretted it ever since.
that's true. Every day.
And what about you, Heinrich?
I've been living in Lapland. I study media. I deal with film. I deal with sound. I
Okay,
deal
nice.
with video games, interactive media, basically everything, all media. And of course,
Nice.
since I'm studying in Finland, it also means that I'm mastering in art, so I also have to know all the bloody arts.
Master of the universe.
Never gonna
almost
draw
with
anything, but
all your
I have
skills.
to take drawing classes.
Yeah, well, knowing about art is good for what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be talking about the film An Elephant Sitting Still. This is directed by Hubo, and it's a film that you guys talked about on your podcast, The Flick Lab, episode 119, which it was a spirited discussion. I think we can come here and talk about it a little more.
Sure.
So, Elephant Sitting Still, directed by Hubo. Luke, can you hit us with the Chinese for that?
Yeah, it's a movie called 大象席地而坐. The director is named Hu Bo.
And so the film follows four people: a gang member, a kind of like a bad student, his girlfriend, and his grandpa, all through living in this region in northern China called Shijiazhuang. And the film follows them kind of literally actually walking around through their day. And these characters are trapped in this kind of banal existence in this banal setting. And they have this kind of like depressive malaise about them as they kind of go through life. And the only kind of thing that anybody in the film kind of seems to look forward to is going to see this elephant that's in a zoo that sits still and doesn't do anything. It doesn't eat. It doesn't react to anything. And so that's kind of like the goal of especially the student to go and see this elephant. It's definitely an art film. And in your discussion of it, I remember you guys mentioned like that you felt like this film was kind of influenced by a lot of art films in the past. Like what kind of films do you think influenced this one?
Oof, I think this is a Henrik territory.
All right.
Nice throwing the other guy under the bus there. Thanks a
Please do
lot.
that.
It's kind of hard to say because I'm not super versed in the director. So when it comes to his like the real influences, who did he really take influence
Yeah.
from? I'm not actually qualified enough to make a
Sure.
statement.
Yeah, of course
The
you can
filmmakers
see.
that I saw Lars von Trier here
Yeah, okay.
somewhat. That in his more perhaps aggressive style, especially in his short films. I got kind of a Trier vibe. I also, and most likely, the director did not come across with this director, but I did mention him in our podcast. Would be the Finnish director Aki Kaurismäki,
Okay.
who also does a lot of this slow burn storytelling.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess you could, in general terms, well, I see a lot of, Asian new wave could be also like from Taiwanese type
The
of new wave
slow
that we've been
pace kinda.
discussing. Slow pace, yeah.
I think he definitely has some influence from Taiwan or New Wave movie because there's a lot of long take, especially well there even I don't know, is it because Taiwanese New Wave style is always combines a lot of long take or sense of depression. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I think, but I believe there's something in between. But I don't know if he did watch a lot of Taiwanese movie or not. But I think is there definitely have some sort of similarity.
So like
Yeah.
it's interesting. The film that I actually got when I watched this, and maybe it's just because I'm making a stupid connection with the title, but was the Gus Van Sant film Elephant, because I definitely feel like the way that the camera works and the way that like the characters are followed around and kind of just like wandering is really, really similar to that.
You might actually be onto something there, Nick, because Gus Van Sant also directed the film Jerry, which is also like that's kind of the masterclass film in slow burn movie making. It's even more slow burn than Elephant. So like with Jerry and with Gus Van Sant making Elephant and Elephant being here, it might actually be some type of a like connection. There really might be actually a case where Hubo is taking influence from and acknowledging, like publicly admitting that he takes influence from Gus Van Sant.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about like the way that the camera works, because I think maybe the big the point in your guys' discussion in your podcast that kind of switched and you guys started to kind of argue with each other a little bit was when Carrie said that he thought that the cinematography was good and then you disagreed. So let's kind of get into that. And what do we all think of the cinematography?
Just so that
Okay.
Kari knows where we are coming from. I make no admittances here towards Kari.
All right. And what about you, Luke? What did you, as the cinematographer here, what did you think?
I personally pretty admire the camera work in this movie because it gives me a sense of separation. Like because they are the cinematographer using really shallow depth of field, which creates a sense of detaching between the main character and the background situation. Since the old character is pretty lonely, is all living in his own world, and there's nobody care about themselves. Shallow depth of field and also the long take give me really good sense of those kind of loneliness and separation for me. And also the following, you can see a lot of shot is following the main character walking through the street, and you can only see his back. It's also give me a sense of loneliness. I don't know. Nobody knows me. Even the world is detached from me, and I just walking around. It's really connecting and disconnecting. It says the camera is connected to the main character, but the main character is disconnected from the outside world. So
it's both connecting the character to the audience, but also disconnecting it from the background. Is kind of what. Yeah, I see.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's have Heinrich give his rebuttal, and then we'll have Carrie do closing statements.
No. I fully agree with the point raised by Luke that the camera highlights the disconnection. Mm-hmm. It highlights the disconnection so well that it disconnected me from the film itself. So bang up job there.
Yeah. So like Luke said there, it separates us from everything else that is happening around the characters.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I've ever seen anything quite like this before. Just the feeling that you are so intimate with the feelings of the main character or whichever character we are following it at any given time in the focus. And also the point that they are like really long takes. They are single takes, almost all of them. So you get to see all of their facial expressions, and you get like a very special connection, I feel, with the characters.
Yeah.
And what it does to the background is also kind of interesting because it kind of generalizes or externalizes everything that happens around them. Kind of everything violence, everything bad, you feel it very strongly that it's external, something that affects you, even though it might not have to be that way.
I kind of can understand both of the points here. Like, I get that the camera work is very connected to the story and like it's very well thought out, and like what he's trying to do with his camera work is in service to the way he's decided to direct his film. But I can also feel like, to be honest, it's not that interesting to watch for 4 hours. It's like we need something. I feel like as an audience member, I need something more than what I'm getting. Like, I understand the feeling that I'm supposed to be having, because it's very, like you said, it's very internalized, and it does that really well. Like, we understand like the emotions of it, and then also we get this feeling of like being in this huge place that there's all this stuff going around, but like the characters are very like in their own head, and they can't kind of see past this very narrow field of view, even though we know there's all this stuff out there. But as an audience member, I'm kind of like, yeah, but I want to see stuff. I want to see different shots than just like a guy's head for like 20 minutes, you know?
It's kind of a weird experience because, like I said, I still stand by what I said, that the 4-hour film for me feels like more like something like 1.5 hours, 2 hours
Interesting.
in length, because I still feel that almost every scene has something so important to tell, or it all kind of contributes. Maybe not the kind of the single scenes, they are not always important per se, but when you put it all together and you get to know these characters so well by the end that you can highly empathize what is going through their heads when they're going to Manzhouli.
So there is kind of like the famous story about this film that the director had a fight with the producers about not wanting to cut anything out of it, and the producers wanted to make it a shorter film. And I think that there maybe is like a sentimentality there, because he did end up taking his own life. And so like as somebody who appreciates film, you kind of feel like, yeah, I want to be on the side of the director, like this film should be this long. But in my honest opinion, I definitely do personally think there's a lot of stuff that can be cut. What do you guys think about that? I know you think that it doesn't need to be cut, Carrie, but what about you, Luke?
I believe I will keep those parts. I won't cut everything else. But I do appreciate the producer's view, like it needs to be shorter. So for me, it's really pity the director committed suicide, because there's still a whole bunch of opportunity that he could keep going. Especially he won the Best Picture award in Golden Horse Film Festival. So I would keep the film the original 4 hours long, but take the chance. Next movie, I would probably do something
more,
different. So make more acceptable for the market. So I will keep the movie this way, but I will modify it.
Okay,
This is my suggestion.
And Heinrich, what do you feel about the length of the film?
Well, to start this one off, in absolute honesty, as fun as it's to pick fights with Karri and bad mouth about the movie and Hubo in general, it's important to remember that there is no like one thing in isolation that causes the effect that you kind of turned against the movie. Like it's not. I'm not opposed Elephant simply because I think that because I didn't fully enjoy the cinematography or that because I feel that it's too long. It's never a case of it's never an isolated incident that leads into you either liking or disliking a movie. It's more of a case of does the movie in total as a whole connect with you and how well it connects. Like cinematography wise, for example, there are films other movies that you choose to use extremely artistic cinematographic expression, like for example heavy usage of Dutch angles or fisheye lenses, and none of those automatically mean that your movie is bad because you use Dutch angles or fisheye lens.
Yeah.
But if the film does not connect with you, then the cinematic expression also, it can easily become like once again, it just one more nail into the coffin.
That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, like take Battlefield Earth for example. The movie sucks, yeah, but it does not simply suck because of the extreme Dutch angles that it uses constantly. But since the film does not connect with you, the Dutch angles that are extremely relentless in Battlefield, it just adds more to the insult. And that's also my take with the cinematography of Elephant. It's also my take with the length of the movie. Like I stated that I felt that when it comes to plot points, there is fuel for 90 minutes, 2-hour film.
It's kind of the if I can jump in, kind of constructed in a way, as you know, Henrik, that there is maybe kind of less plot moves going on. It's more about the feelings of the characters, and therefore I do not believe that you could cut this into 90 minutes or even 2 hours.
I think you can easily
this.
cut 40 seconds out of 1 minute full of walking from throughout the parking lot.
It's an important walking. Very emotional.
Okay, it's interesting. Yeah, different opinions about the way the way the movie presented. Pretty interesting because for me, it's like Carrie said, it's a way of presentation of the emotion or the way the director wanted to express like how the whole situation is so depressing. The main character needs to take some time to like walking through a parking lot or something. And for me, yeah, it's really difficult to watch the whole movie in just one time. So I actually take two separate I don't recall it, three separate days to finish the movie because it was way too long. But still, I really enjoy watching it. Every time I watch it, the reason I stopped watching it is because I really need to do something else. But I really enjoy watching a whole through the 4 hours. But I could, so I just separate to 3 different days to finish the movie. But still, I could totally get the reason why the director wanted to do it so long. And even separate 3 days to finish the movie, it still make me really good impression. I don't forget any part of it. I still feel very connected. Like I don't forget anything in the movie. So it's really amazing.
You know what, Luke? It's the same effect for me and many people that they watch it in parts.
All right, so at risk of being like Elephant Standing Still, I'm going to move the conversation to the next point, which is, so we kind of touched on it, but a good segue is like, so what do we think like the director is trying to say with this movie? What is like the point of this movie? And also, what is the significance of this idea of this elephant sitting still, which is such a unique image and a unique kind of goal that these characters have to go find this elephant that's sitting still. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, well, the problem is that I don't think the original book that this is at least loosely based on, I don't think it has been translated into English. So that could give some context. On our podcast, we had a little bit of help from a Chinese friend of mine, but we didn't go through the entire book. So, but what I get from the film, I feel that the elephant could be a lot of things. This time around, I felt that it could be about kind of reflecting the situation of the main characters, maybe that they are so bound to this life of depression like the elephant kind of is, probably shackled somewhere and unable to move, is sitting still and bored of life and wants to exit this misery. But yeah, there's also, if I can jump into the grandfather, there is also the line that the quote the grandfather says that changing the environment is not always the option to, or never even in his opinion. to your problems, solving them. But I think the elephant still symbolizes hope. What my good friend San said, he felt that in the book there is really no hope, but in the movie I definitely feel that there is like they are approaching some kind of hope.
I don't know what film Kari has seen, or was he tripping on LSD when he watched this one? But like what?
Might be good.
Weird. To me, the whole point of the film, and it's kind of, in my opinion, the main point of Hubo's filmography, when you also count in the short films, would be the absolute pointlessness and the futility of life. How nothing ever truly matters. The characters all have, like, in Elephant, they start with some type of a like setup mind state or goal that they feel that is important to achieve. The kid wants to protect his friend and stand against the police. There's the grandfather, there's the brother, the thug brother of the dead kid who wants to get the revenge. That's the setup, or the starting point of the characters. And throughout the film, basically all the motivations turned out to be pointless. The teenage kid, it turns out that he was defending the wrong guy. The dude who ends up dead, the bully, was actually right in this case when he was blaming, the teenager's friend. The relationship that the relationships between the characters, like the romances, well, they don't lead into anything except heartbreak. Constantly, every single relationship fails in this movie. The whole revenge plot is something that when the brother finally gets the teenager on his hands, he's also kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah, he doesn't want to go through with it.
Yeah, fuck. I give up on the revenge. And that's kind of something that also connects the characters in Hubo's short films, or forms their connection to the world. There was always something. They all start from the point, except perhaps in The Man in the Well, but for example in Night Runner, the starting point is that there's some point in what I'm doing. Like, I have a goal. And then when you get to the end, it turns out that whatever the character was hoping for, whatever he was trying to achieve, it just kind of goes through his hands. He doesn't get it. It was, in the end, the whole exercise was completely futile, and there was no point in it. And to drive this even more forward, like I already mentioned in our episode, Elephant has the running theme of certain lines of dialogue kind of a repeating, or certain notions that the characters make repeating throughout the dialogue. And the notion that or the two notions that keep repeating are everything is pointlessness. The grandfather states this 2 or 3 times, and then makes the case also that like changing the location solves nothing. It's not an escape. And also something that they say repeatedly is that something is shit. It's all shit. This is shit. That is shit.
So I actually am kind of in the camp of that Carrie's in, that I actually do sort of think that the ending of this film is trying to be hopeful in a way, because I have the same reading of the meaning of the elephant, that it's like, it's this powerful creature that is not moving and has no motivation, but if it would just get up and do something, then it would have all this power. And kind of the strangeness of it is that it doesn't move. Why doesn't it move? It can move, but it doesn't want to. And it's kind of like a depressed person, of like, you have all this, you have all this power, but you just can't you can't move. And then at the end of the film, the characters actually do end up finally getting on the bus and making the choice to actually go pursue the goal that they've been thinking they shouldn't go after. And I think, like Carrie thinks, that the sound of the elephant is it's twofold. It's like them finally doing the thing, and it's also the elephant finally deciding to move. So I actually do think there's this hope in it, and I think that it's kind of mirrored in the camera work too. Whereas like we have all of these close-up shots where the characters are really internalized, and then the only wide shots are at the very end of the film. So finally the characters have gotten out of their head, they've stopped overthinking things, and they're decided to like live in the real world. Like that's kind of the hopeful side of it. I can see the argument for it.
I think it's kind of a mixture of things, like you guys said. So I'm not discounting the meaninglessness in a way. Myself, I think life itself doesn't have a meaning by the virtue of existing. You just have to make a meaning for it in some way. In this case, they're escaping their environment. That could be a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right on. All right. Well, on a hopeful note, I think we'll leave it at that. Do you guys have anything that you guys want to plug other than the podcast, the Flick Lab podcast?
Yeah, well, just the Flick Lab podcast, really, in my mind. You can find it at theflicklab.com and all the social media pretty much out there. Also on YouTube, but we have only audio because we're like old-fashioned audio podcast.
Okay, cool. Well, remember to like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about Mint Volcano, and I'll see you guys next time. Recommend any movies that you want us to review, and definitely check out the Flick Lab podcast. All right, see you guys later. Bye-bye.